Hey guys, welcome again to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time, you're welcome. To all our subscribers, you are welcome. So in this video, we'll be making this lovely dress. You can see the two dresses beside me are the inspiration for this dress. So guys, do like this video, and if you have any question, leave it in the comment box below. And without wasting much of our time, let's dive right into this video. Thank you. I have these two fabrics. The black is about 1 yard and the flowering is about 2 yards. Two are crepe, thus that the flowering one is lighter than the black is thick. I have my other stuff I'll be using. Then we'll proceed. I already have a line drew on my paper, drafting paper. So the first line is my starting point, then the second one is the CL, which is the chest line, followed by the BP, my bust point, and the under bust, then followed by waist length. Then the last I have down is the hip line. So the distance between my waist length to the hip line is about 10 inches. So I'll proceed by taking the measurements of my neck. I divide the neck measurements by 2 and I slanted it down about 1 inch. Then I join the line down to the chest line. To get my armhole curve using my free hand, I just went up about 1 inch from that angle and I connect it slantly, exactly the way you're seeing now. Then I'm going to be dividing the armhole line by 2, then I'll go in 0.5, then I'll form a slant, connect it to the curve I have already, and that only stands for the front. The first one I'll be cutting is for the back, but for this effect is for the front. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is just to proceed now to divide the circumference of my bust by 4. Then I marked it and I added about 1.5 allowance. Then on the underbust, I did the same thing, dividing my underbust by 4, the circumference of my underbust by 4. Then I marked it and I added 1.5 allowance. The same thing I did on the waistline, dividing the circumference by 4, then adding my allowance and marking it out. Then I'm connecting the 3 points together. The next thing, the down part, I have my hip line, so I will leave it for now. I'll go straight to the neck region. Then I'm going to be marking out the neck. For the neck, I just marked out about 3.5 wideness. Then I came down to the chest line and I came up on the chest line about 0.5 inches. Then I marked it and I'm going to be connecting it now straight to the 3.5 I marked for the neck, because I want a v-neck, but I don't want it to expose anything, so I had to come up about 0.5 on the chest line. Then on the underbust at the edge, I came up about 0.5, and from there I'm going to be connecting it to make it a curve straight to the bust point. So this is what I did. Since I'm using my free hand, on the bust point I came in 1.5, I marked it. On the underbust I marked 3 inches. So these are stand as a basis for me to mark out my curve very well, perfectly, without using any curve ruler. So I'm going to be connecting it, just passing it through those points I already marked out. Don't forget, on the underbust I came in like 3 inches, then on the bust point 0.5, 1.5, then I connect it. Now it's not really showing where I'll take my marker to make it bold enough for us to see clearly. So those points I'm just going to be connecting it together. So after I'm done getting my curve perfectly, so I'll proceed now to take the circumference of my hip line, dividing it by 4. Then I will add my allowance and mark it there and connect it straight to the waistline I already have above. So you can see me connecting it together now. I don't really need this hip measurements. Nevertheless, let's mark it so it gives us the guidelines on how to go about the next thing to do. Then on my waistline, I just placed my tape rule there and I marked it down 15 inches. It means where my basque effect is going to be starting and ending is from my waistline to about 15 inches downward. Then on the side, I also placed my tape rule again on the waistline. I marked it out about 7 inches on the side. So the one I marked out on the side plus the 15 inches downward, I'm going to be connecting it together slantly, exactly the way you're seeing me doing it now. Don't forget, on the waistline, I came down 7 inches. Then I also came down about 15 inches. Then I'm just connecting it together slantly. You can see exactly what we have now. This is perfect basque effect for what we are making. So I'll proceed now by cutting out everything. So after I'm done cutting this out, I'm going to be using the same pattern to cut the back part also. So for the back, since I'm not going to be having this curve at the back, but I want the same length for the neck. So this is what I did. I just placed what I already cut out for the front part. I placed it on a fresh paper and I'm just tracing it out exactly the same thing without including the zip allowance, which I'm going to be including when I'm cutting it on the fabric. Then for the neck part for the back, I want it to have the same length of the V-line neck at the front. So this is what I did. Where I know where the V ended for the front part, I just bent it. Then I'm going to trace it out on the paper I'm using for the back side. So after I'm done tracing it, I'll just cut it out. Then the trace I have already will guide me on where to cut exactly. Remember the part I bent, I'm going to be using the other flowering material to do that part, which I will also sew it together with this back part. Then proceed back to the front. This time now I'm going to cut out my cup part. Remember, I have 2 fabrics which I'll be using, so the cup part is going to be the flowering fabric, then the other down part is going to be the black fabric. So I've gone ahead to cut out everything, the one I need the black to cut, and even for the zipper allowance I didn't add, I added it now on the back part. Then I also cut, this is the front part, I also cut it out. Then for the cup and for the cape at the back, I'm going to be placing that front part again there. Then I'll bend it exactly the way I did when I was cutting the down part of the back. I'll bend it like this, and you can see my fabrics is already unfolded, and I left about 0.5 allowance for the fabric, so that I'll use that to turn. It stands for my allowance. Then I'll proceed now to cut it. Just know that we are cutting the back part, the upper part of the back. You can see now. So I'm going to be cutting the armhole. Remember, I'm yet to cut that curve effect armhole, the one we came in 0.5, because that one is only meant for the front part. I can't cut it at the back because it's going to make my sleeve not stand well if I cut that shape back. You can see exactly what I have now. This is for the back. Then I'll proceed now to cut the front. You can see now I removed the 0.5 I came in with on the armhole because it's only for the front effect. Then I will not just place this paper draft for this cup straight on my fabric, because if I use and cut straight, it's going to be a bit tight and not really be well placed while I'm done sewing. So I want it to have a kind of pleating so that it will accommodate the bust. So I just divided my paper into 3. You can divide it as many as you can, and it depends on how wide you want the pleating, how full you want the cup part to be. So after I'm done dividing it, this is just my own way of expanding it. Then I'm going to be using that tape to tape everything down. And after I'm done taping it down my own way, just do it though anyhow it's convenient for you to do, I just place it on another folded fabric. You can see my fabric is folded. Then I will cut it out, and I'm not just cutting it out exactly, I leave about 0.5 exactly the way I did for the back part. You can see now this give me excess allowance. I can pleat it, and when I'm done sewing it will give me a perfect cup without being tight. So for the ruffle, I have my fabric folded in 4. I have my fabric already folded in 4. So I'm going to be measuring the total length I have for the basque effect. So for this one I have 13, and know that this is unfolded, so I'm going to multiply by 2. I have 26, then 26 again multiply by 2, which is for the back part. I have 52. So now 52 now is the total wideness of my basque effect, both for the front and for the back. So to cut it out on my ruffle, I'm going to multiply by 3. So after multiplying it by 3, anything I have now, which is 156, is what. So it means the total wideness of the ruffle I'm going to be using is 156, and the length I use here is 11 inches. I needed 10, but I made it 11 so that I'll have sewing allowance. Then we'll proceed now to the cutting of the sleeve. I have my fabric again folded, but this time around I folded it in 4. First I folded to 2, I flip again making it 4. So I've marked out my desired length, and I just came down slantly. If you know how to cut a perfect sleeve, which I have taught it in many of my tutorials, so just go ahead, watch my videos and know how to cut a perfect sleeve. So I took my desired round sleeve for the down part. I'm going to be putting elastic rubber, so I marked out my desired measurements and I'm connecting it to the upper side, and I'll proceed now to just cut it out. But for the armhole part, this upper part which is going to enter the armhole, I just made it exact armhole measurements. I didn't add allowance because I don't intend on putting any gathers at the armhole parts. So now let's proceed to the sewing part. So this is what I did again, but before sewing I took the piece of the back just to cut out a interface, which I'm going to be using to close it up, closing my V neck. You can use bias, but I just choose to use this. You can gum an interface on it too, or you leave it like that. Later when you are done, you can just iron it down exactly the way I have it placed on the upper part. That's how I'm going to be sewing it. So I'll proceed now to first join my ruffle together. You know, I have my ruffle cut in pieces. I don't have the fabric straight, so I just joined everything together. So after I'm done joining it, I'll proceed to stitch the down part, and I'll stitch it straight. So the other side of the ruffle, I'm going to be putting gathers. So I've gone ahead to loosen the tension of my sewing machine, and you can see how freely it's sewing now, and it's not tight. So from after that, I'm going to be locating the thread, the end part. Then I'll open up the thread in 2 like this. Then I'll use 1 to be dragging it out exactly the way you're seeing. I will do this to all the ruffle. Then let's keep this aside and proceed to other thing. So I have the center cup here. I have the interface also cut. I'm going to be closing it up now, and I will show us how to do one, which is the same thing I'm going to also do for the back part. So this is the interface already placed on the V shape line that we cut out for the front cup, and I'm going to stitch it down straight. So now after I'm done stitching it down straight, I'll open it up, but before that I'll just use my scissors to notch it round like this, and if there's excess allowance I'm going to trim it off. Then I'll open it up like this and also stitch on top the interface I use to cover it up, not on the other part. You can see where the sewing is showing at the back. I did that for both and also for the back part also. And now it's time to join this to the body. So exactly this is how I'm going to join it, but we ensure the right side of this fabric is facing the right side of the black fabric also. I'll do that also for the second. Anything I'm doing for the right side, I'm also doing it for the left side, even for the back side too. So now remember where my v-neck starts. That's where I'm going to place on the sharp edge there, and I'll stitch it around. Then for the back also the same thing I'll do. I haven't covered up the v-line with my interface, so I have this, so I'm going to be placing it, making the right side face the right side for the back, and I'll stitch it. We'll proceed now to the stitching machine, and I'll show us exactly how I'm doing it. So you can see now I just place it, making the right side facing the right side. And at this time you have to be patient with your stitching, because as you're stitching you're also putting little pleating or gathers. Remember, we cut it SS, especially the front part, so that it accommodates the bust. So try to stitch it gently, be patient, and stitch it straight on the cup parts. I also did the same thing. I did the same thing for the other side. I fix in the cup. After I'm done doing that, I proceed also to the back part. At this time I already joined the black part, the black fabric of the back. You know, the back is into two because of the zipper. I've joined them, leaving the zipper side open. So I just joined the back together like this. So at the end you see what I have for the front part. You can see now, you can see the gathers showing there, the pleating showing there. For the back side too, I have this joint already together. You can see the v-neck at the back. Then I'm going to be placing the back on the front part just to connect the neck, the shoulder together. So I'm going to be putting the mouth together, then use one part to flip it at the back just to cover up. I'll show us this when I'm sewing it. So I'm going to be gumming this semi gum in between the interface and the cup parts, both at the back. So at this time I'm going to be marking out my measurements on the fabric. So first I'll mark out the circumference of my bust, dividing it by 2. This time around I'm going to be dividing by 2, no more by 4, because my fabric is not on fold again. Then on the waist part, circumference divided by 2, I'll mark it out. Then I'm going to be connecting it up with the bust. Then I'll connect it down. So after I'm done, you can see our basque down there. Then for the back side, I'm going to be putting this zipper. If you know how to fix zipper, or you want me to make a full tutorial on how to fix zipper, please do tell me in the comment box. Then after I'm done fixing my zipper, then to put in my shoulder together now, I've put the front and the back together, and I use one part of the back to turn the shoulder, and I'll stitch it. I did the same thing for both shoulders. And after I'm done, you can see exactly what I have. You can see now. So now I'll proceed now by joining the back and the front together, using the mark I already have at the front to join it. And this, you can see exactly what I have now. So now we'll bring back our ruffle, and now we are going to join it on the basque part. Just that you are going to making the right side of the basque face the right side of your fabric. You can see exactly I'm stitching it, and again you still need to do this with patience. Be patient while doing this so that you won't scatter the gathers you already have. So I'm going to be putting the gathers well, then stitching it round on my basque straight. And now remember, I multiply to get these gathers by 3. I multiply the circumference of my basque by 3 to get these gathers. You can see exactly how full this basque, the gathers, everything looks so beautiful. So now we'll proceed to the sleeve part, and I have this elastic band to put at the round sleeve part. So I just fold it in to the down part and I stitch it down. Then I'll just roll up my fabric on the elastic band. Then I'll be stitching it. I'll be dragging out the elastic band just to ensure I don't stitch on the elastic band. You can see exactly what I have. If you have another method to put in your elastic band in your fabric, just use it. But this style has been useful for me and I've been using it since. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just mark out the circumference. Then I'll stitch it down together straight to the upper part, leaving small part open. Then I'll bring in my fabric, my dress already. Then I'm going to be inserting the sleeve in the armhole. Yes, we are done with this. You can see how the outcome looks on me. Please like the video. Bye.